All right, let's talk about work. We're going to pull back the curtain on what a job actually is. Seriously, we're going to deconstruct it, break it down into its most basic building blocks, and show you the hidden architecture behind every single role you've ever had. So let's dive in. I want you to think about that for a second. Your job title, project manager, software engineer, marketing lead, it's really just a label, right? It doesn't come close to capturing the hundreds of little things you do, the decisions you make, the actions you take all day long. So what are you really doing? Well, it turns out there's a lot more structure to it than you might think. And that is the big idea here today. We're going to treat jobs like they're made of Legos. Using this idea of building blocks, we'll see how any job, and I mean any job, from a barista to a brain surgeon, is put together from the same fundamental parts. And once you understand these parts, you'll understand your own career in a whole new way. Okay, so to get started, we're going to zoom all the way in. We're going to look at the tiniest, most basic pieces of work. You could almost think of them as the atoms that when you put them together, create everything else you do. So this smallest piece is called an element. And an element is an action that's so simple you literally can't break it down any further. Think about it: lifting a phone receiver, clicking a mouse button, pressing the enter key. These are those tiny, almost invisible physical or mental movements that are the absolute foundation of all work. Now, when you start stringing a few of those elements together, you get a task. And tasks, well, they're the real workhorse of any job. A task is just an activity with a clear start, a clear finish, and a clear purpose. So lifting the handset, talking to the person, typing in their info, all those elements combine to become the task of, say, responding to incoming telephone inquiries. See how that works? And this isn't just guesswork. The pros, like in HR, define these tasks with incredible precision. A really good task statement isn't just some vague description. It's practically a formula with 5 parts. You start with a strong action verb. Then you name the object, what you're acting on. You list the tools you use, the rules you have to follow, and, this is the most important part, the reason you're doing it, the outcome. This structure just strips away all the confusion. Okay, so we've got our tasks. Now let's see how they start to come together. We're going to zoom out a little bit to see how these individual activities get grouped into the major functions that really define a job. This is where you can start to see the actual shape of a role emerging from all the pieces. So tasks get bundled into what we call duties. These are the main buckets of your job. But, and this is super important, not all duties are created equal. There's a really critical distinction between essential duties and marginal ones. Essential duties are the absolute core reason your job exists. Marginal duties? They're the other stuff, the things that could probably be given to someone else without totally changing your role. And this isn't just some HR speak. It's a huge deal for laws like the Americans with Disabilities Act. All right, we've built up from the what you do, the tasks and duties. Now we're moving up to the highest level, which is all about the what you own. And this is where we get into the really big concepts: responsibility and, the big one, accountability. People throw around the words duty and responsibility like they're the same thing, but they're not. Not at all. A duty is narrow. It's about doing a task. A responsibility is broad. It's about owning an outcome. Think of it this way. A teacher's duty is to deliver a lesson plan for the day, but their responsibility is to maintain a safe and effective learning environment for the entire year. One is about doing, the other is about owning the result. And then, sitting at the very top of this pyramid is accountability. This is the crucial final piece. While a whole team can share responsibility for a project, only one person can be truly accountable. They're the single person who ultimately owns the success or the failure. Accountability is that formal "the buck stops here" link that makes sure everything actually gets done. So we've just completely deconstructed a job into all its tiny parts. But why? Why does any of this matter to you? Well, it's because this entire system of building blocks doesn't just define the job you have now. It actually provides the blueprint for your entire career. The U.S. Department of Labor actually uses a system called O-Net that sorts every single job into these job zones. And it's all based on the complexity of their tasks, duties, and responsibilities. This shows you that climbing the career ladder isn't just about getting a fancier title. It's about moving up through these zones, from just following instructions in Zone 1 to coordinating things in Zone 3, all the way up to managing massive complex activities in Zone 5. It's a real, measurable progression. And this whole framework, this isn't just theory. It's the engine that runs modern HR. It's used for everything, from writing job descriptions that make sense to deciding on fair pay, and even designing the training programs that get us ready for whatever's coming next in the world of work. And speaking of the future, that brings us to a huge trend that's happening right now. For a long, long time, jobs were all about the tasks you did, your to-do list. But today, the most forward-thinking companies are shifting their focus. They're starting to care a lot less about how you do the work and a lot more about the results, the value, the outcomes you create. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. When you look at your own job through this new lens we've been talking about, what do you see? Is your work defined by the list of tasks you check off every day, or is it defined by the value and the outcomes you ultimately deliver? The answer might just change the way you think about your career.